Good morning. Dave Crocker here with you on Warriors, Hard Chargers, and Patriots, connecting the little dots to the big dots. Today's podcast is titled, The Chain of Command is Longer Than You Think. The premise is that, through your leadership presence, if you open yourself up, you allow your humility to draw people closer to you, and in fact, that you're a good, positive, inspiring leader, that the impacts that you have on the sailor extend well beyond the sailor. They extend to family members and other friends and associates with which this person might be close. And those impacts then have a direct impact back to the sailor's career and whether or not he or she they want to stay in the Navy or what have you. And it would be the same in any company, I think. So. I've got a couple stories that I want to tell you, true stories, about how young men and women were drawn to want to talk a little bit more about their relationships with the Navy and with their families. And sometimes it's just by luck. But, probably the common item here is that you have to be out and about. You have to be present. You have to be looking for these opportunities. They don't always befall you. You've got to go, just be available, and some magical things will happen. So the first one I wanted to talk to you about was a episode that happened at the Great Lakes Recruiting Command. This was probably about 2005. I had retired, and I always loved going back to the Recruit Training Command because really, over an 8-week period, it's where miracles happen. It's where young men and women are transformed from, even if they were exceptional people to begin with, and there were a lot of people who were just waiting to be exceptional. They just needed a little bit of help understanding the issue, the sense of working with others, being a teammate, that you can't always do it by yourself. I was always struck by the Recruit Division Commander's Creed, and these people work really hard. And some of them have gone back a second time. One of our interviewers or interviewees has been there numerous times, and it's just hard work, but it's God's work. These people are responsible for so much. The creed reads, "These recruits are entrusted to my care. I will train them to the best of my ability. I will develop them into smartly disciplined, physically fit, basically trained sailors. I will instill in them and demonstrate by my own example the highest standards of honor, courage, and commitment." They arrive from every state, every territory, and over 5 different countries to be trained in this environment of building these collective teams, learn to survive with each other, and to thrive with each other. And they come with some various levels of baggage and or lack of discipline or lack of family support. So once in a while you get this opportunity to go back and participate in this miracle. And I had been invited to go and be a guest speaker at one of the graduation ceremonies. And I'd gotten into town the day before so I could watch their graduation event, their battle stations, but also to attend pizza night. And pizza night was in their mess at night, where all of the graduates got a chance to get together. And I had been invited to sit down next to the honor graduate, who happened to be a young man from Ohio. Did I say that right? Ohio. He was telling me his story that, he was in his 3rd year at Ohio State University, working towards a degree, thinking about going to law school. But a lot of things were happening in that year, and he had this burning desire for whatever reason. Thank goodness he had this burning desire to go and make a difference now. He felt like he'd always finish his college degree, go on to do wonderful things in the commercial world, but he wanted to make a difference now. So he decided to put his education on hold for a while and join the Navy. But what he wanted to do is he wanted to become a Navy SEAL. And he was 24 years old, and he had to get an age waiver to do that. So he had to work hard to get where he wanted to go. he got the age waiver and was accepted into the Navy SEAL program. And you know, I was just so inspired by his story. Graduation day came, and events went off as planned. And afterwards, there was a reception for honor graduates and their family members. And he was there, and so was his mother. And so, you know, she came up and we had a conversation. And I said, "What a great young man! You must be so proud." I think that, you know, he's what an honor to have such a, you know, great young man representing this country. And she said to me that he is a fine young man, but I don't know what's going on in his head right now. Why would he give up such a great opportunity to finish a degree at such a prestigious university? And it is, that being Ohio State University. Yeah, all sorts of promise and things that were just waiting for him to go do. And so I asked her, I said, "Well, have you ever asked him that question?" And she said, "No." I said, "Let's go have a chat." And so I just got this conversation started, backed out of it. It was not my conversation to have. I was close enough, however, to listen, I must tell you. And she said, why did you make this decision? And, you know, I'm just going to paraphrase because it was a lot more involved and a lot more emotional than I will probably be able to relay to you here now. But she said, "You know, Mom," he says, I love what you've done for me. I love the example you've given me. And I just feel like I want to give back now, and I'll take care of myself later. You know, he had to catch a bus to get onto a plane to go start the SEAL training like that afternoon. So I asked if I could just hang around with her because he was going to get on that bus at Great Lakes, and then she was going to go off and do her thing. And so I just stood around and talked to her while he was getting ready. And when the bus left, hugs were made, tears were shed. I asked her, I said, "Well, what do you think now?" She said, "He is a great young man." I said, "You're a great mom. You're a great mom." And so the opportunity here was for me to be able to have a extended conversation with her and just remember that she had a lot to do with what this young man chose to do in his life, and that she should be also so proud. So those kinds of stories happen left and right. Some of them were a little more personal than that. Some of them were a derivative of the fact that I had opened up access to the ship via our webpage and given people my email address, as I've discussed earlier. And so there was a young lady named Nicole, 12-year-old, lived in the Chicago suburbs. Her uncle was on my ship. I'm going to probably use, I will just use first names here. So she was able to follow the ship, and, you know, she was able to learn a lot about what her uncle did through the letters that he wrote back and emails that he wrote back home. And she was so impressed with that every time he came home for a holiday, he was in his dress blues, and she was just impressed with his presence, for lack of a better term. So she had been given a school assignment to write about her hero. And as a 12-year-old, and you can imagine in Chicago, there were a lot of people who were writing about sports stars. Michael Jordan was a sort of a favorite for a lot of people. And she decided to write about her uncle. And in the process of doing this, after it was done, her mom sent me a copy of the letter to read because, well, I think she just was so proud of her, not only Nicole, but her nephew. And so the letter was written and it was sent to me, and I just want to sort of read it and paraphrase it a little bit here because you'll understand how important this is. "Nick is my hero's name. He is my uncle. Nick has a cool job. His job is working in the Navy. I see him mostly on holidays because he's gone a lot. Nick is valiant because he was very brave to leave the people he loves. Nick is a risk taker to go for a higher level in the Navy. He's bold because he's a very bright person and chose to do things for others. Nick is also respectable because he is trustworthy. Nick is willing to do tough things. Nick is willing to do the things that need to be done. He helps people in need. He's a person who doesn't just think about himself. Nick takes a lot of responsibility. He's a person who does things without complaining. Nick is a valiant person because he's daring to get at the best position. Nick is a dependable person. I could put him in charge of my whole life savings and he would not spend a penny of it. Even though I hardly ever see Nick, every day I know he will be back. Nick is not famous, but he is to me. Every time you use the color blue, he comes to mind. I hope to see him again pretty soon. Love, Nicole. Well, talk about raising my emotions to the level of tears. I went, wow. And I just didn't know. I mean, and of course the young sailor got this letter before I got it, and rightfully so, but I was just wondering if he appreciated the impact that he had. And then coming back around, the relationship that we developed collectively, where the young lady's mother chose to share this with me so I could also appreciate the impact that not only her uncle was having, but the Navy at large. So I invited him up to the bridge because I wanted to talk to him about this. And I was asking him, I said, I'm wondering if it might be possible, if you'll allow me to leverage this letter without impinging on your privacy so everyone can appreciate the impact that they have on family members and on people that are just walking down the street when they see you walking with your eyes bright and making eye contact, your shoulders back, and a little bit of a strut in your walk. The confidence that comes with knowing who you are and knowing where you want to go. And he allowed me to do this. I was so humbled by this letter. And so that evening, after the evening prayer, I got on the 1MC, which is not something I often do after the evening prayer, but I wanted this to be the closing words from the bridge that night. So I started with a summary of the day's events, like I always do. And then, I had one of these things where we just talked about, after a pause, I read this letter, and I said, that every one of these young men and women have this kind of impact on people, and that they may not realize it. And the impact can be good or it can be bad. But this young girl, this young lady, chose a real hero, somebody who truly has made a deposit in this nation. And I read it as passionately as it sounded to me when I first read it. I still have a copy of this letter sitting here, and I'll never, ever lose it because it reminded me of the things that we do every day. So I said, you might not get to these sailors that I'm talking to on the ship. You may not get these letters. You may not, but know that given the opportunity, that they're going to be written because people think that of you, and you should just be happy with that and proud of that. So remember, every time you wear your uniform out in public or to a family event, or even just in your civilian clothes, they know what you're doing and they know the danger that might come with that. A third story goes back to coming back from our deployment. We'd been gone for about 7 months. And occasionally, like I said, we'll get out of the blue. I'll get an email from a person who's not what I'll call an immediate family member, but certainly involved in the tribe, right? And this came from a grandmother, and she was really talking a lot about what the Navy had done for her daughter, and I thought, wow, this is pretty. She just felt like she had to tell this story. I'm not sure if there was a background story in this or not because it wasn't addressed in the letter, nor did I care to pry any further. But I'd like to read this letter to you as well, so you get a sense of the feedback mechanism that came, again, through the exposure of the ship and the leadership team to the sailors and their family members. Dear Captain, I have no idea if you will ever receive this email, but I have to try to reach out to you. You are so very familiar to me from all the emails I got from my granddaughter, as well as the stories and photos of on the internet. Every day, I would go to the ship's webpage and follow you all with so much love and pride. My granddaughter is on the ship. After a series of personal tragedies, I discovered how much I valued my access to the ship's webpage, how close it brought my granddaughter and the ship to me personally. I needed the ship as much as my granddaughter did. It made it seem like I had the whole crew of the USS Carl Vinson to worry about and no time for self-pity. I lived with all you through her. My granddaughter has turned into an excited, happy sailor and woman. We love each other so very much. I want to thank you for bringing them home safely, and thank you and her chain of command for being so inspirational. My emotions are coming here, sorry about it. Her mom is going to be in San Diego to meet the ship, and I will be there in spirit. I can just imagine you all standing on deck, looking so proud in your uniforms, so happy, so proud, and thankful that you did it together. It makes me cry just thinking about it. Thank you so much. Even today, I hope that other people in other positions, other jobs, can have these emotional moments and get this kind of feedback from some of their people. And maybe you won't, and that would be too bad. But this is the kind of stuff, and I've got maybe 20 or 30 of them here, and I've got one special one that I hope to put into a separate podcast if my son will let me do it, because it's all about what he did at my change of command. Another story goes into, I was a guest speaker at a VMI graduation. They had an Army and an Air Force general officers, and I was representing the Navy. And we went through the official ceremony, and there was a group, taking of the oath, etc., administering the oath. And it was great. All the families were there. And I was so enjoying the day, and there was a separate place where we could take pictures or videos and pictures if we wanted to, and some elected to want to go ahead and re-administer the oath in a more public or private setting. And I was speaking to this one dad as I was sort of walking around just waiting to see what was going to happen next. And I said, "You must be very proud of your son." I said, "Well, we really haven't talked about why he did what he did. He wanted to go to VMI, and and I thought it was a great opportunity for him to gain some discipline and learn a little bit about teamwork. But I really never have talked to him about why he's doing what he's doing." I said, "Well, did you listen to the oath that he took?" I said, "Yeah, but I don't. I really don't. Yeah, it doesn't. It's a bunch of words to me." I said, "Well, I hope it's not to your son. I don't think it is." And we walked through the oath, and we talked about the fact that we are supporting and defending the Constitution. We got into the preamble and all of the various things that we're doing in terms of. Those are the tactical things that I've talked about with you before. That really we're responsible for in terms of that Constitution. And that this young man is fully engrossed and fully ensconced in this. I said, "You should want to give him that oath. You should want to do that." He said, "Oh, I can't do that. I don't even know the oath." I said, "Well, it's 8 lines long." I said, "Why don't you? Let's go over together and talk to your son and see if he would like to have this done." And we talked, and he said, "Geez, Dad, this would be so cool. It would mean so much to me. It would connect us even more so than we have ever been connected before." I sensed there wasn't a lot of connection. So I said, "Dad, take these 6 lines. I can't let you read it to him in an index card. I want you to go ahead and see if you can, memorize these 8 lines, and we'll take our time. I'll stay here as long as it takes to get there if you want to do this." And so we took a little bit of time, took a couple of false starts, because I also wanted to work on voice inflection a little bit. When you say, "I do solemnly swear," and so help me God. Support and defend the Constitution. That all of those words had to matter. They had to have impact. And the commander of the brigade walked over and asked what I was doing, and he said, "Well," he said, "I've never seen never seen this done this way before, but this is great." And we just got in front of like one of these green screen things, so like a false back, and put a U.S. flag up there, and they went through this ceremony together, and tears were running down not only their eyes but my eyes and the commandant's eyes, and a lot of people who chose just to watch this particular instance. And when it was all over, there were big hugs to be had. Now, I never saw this young man again, nor did I see his dad. But my bet is that that the relationship between those two flourished, and that the dad became the biggest proponent, biggest fan of this young man as he did whatever he did in his military career. Because that support mechanism is so important. And the relationship about dad going home and talking to the rest of the family about the impact that his son is having and why he's serving and why this oath is so important, went not just back to his dad, obviously, it went laterally across the entire tribe. Other children, uncles and aunts, I guarantee you this happened. And it was just a really wonderful event. The last story I want to tell you about the chain of command being longer than you think has to do with just one of those rare opportunities, I guess you want to call it that, where I had this chance to have an impact on a woman I just didn't even know. I hadn't met her, and until later, when I did get a chance to meet her, I didn't know who she was. I had been back. I'm a North Dakota kid. I'm from Fargo, North Dakota. I had a dear friend who was a radio personality on a large AM radio station that transmitted all the way into Montana. It was into Montana, I think. It was a powerful radio station. KFGO, I think, were the call signs on it. And we were it was a Saturday morning. I was sort of dressed, my sweatshirt, my jeans. And I walked in, there's sort of this horseshoe table, and there were a bunch of things going on. You had a weather person, a stock reports person, a news person, and a lot of people running around collecting data and giving it to the right people. It was a hodgepodge of things. And I had a set of headphones on and a microphone in front of me. And we were talking about the Navy. And this was I was still in command of Carl Vinson. So we were talking about the ship, and we were talking about all the various things that went on. And then questions were coming in, and this was supposed to last about 45 minutes. Well, at about the 45-minute mark, a caller came in, and I'm going to try to paraphrase best I can because her voice was just a little eerie, actually. She said, Captain, and she said, my name is, I'm just going to call her Joanne. I honestly don't remember her name. This is my memory going bad on me. I'm Joanne, and you don't know me, but I'm having a real tough time dealing with the loss of my son. And I need to talk to you about it, and I need some insights, and I need some help. And she went on to explain that her son was a SAR crewman in a helicopter squadron, and so he was in the back of the helicopter, and they were out in Fallon, Nevada, where air wings go to do their training. And this particular mission was a simulated rescue mission where they were flying low level on goggles, night vision goggles, over desert-like territory, mountainous desert-like territory, to go find a particular individual who was being simulated to be in distress. Somewhere during the flight, the airplane impacted the ground, and all four, the two pilots and the two crewmen were killed. So this was 7, 8 months before our telephone call. Now, as she's telling the story, I'm looking around and I'm just getting tunnel vision because I'm just focusing on this story because nothing else in this room could possibly be important to me. I mean, how could it be, right? And I think everyone else felt the same because people were, moving papers around and shuffling stuff and getting ready for the next segment, all just sort of stopped because they could hear it over the loudspeaker system, and they were just listening as well. And all of a sudden, the next stock report or the next weather report, they didn't matter to this group, to their credit. They understood that something was happening here. So she told me the story, and sometimes you just want to keep it simple. And my simple response was, first, I said, I'm sorry for the loss of your son. I can't, there's no way that I can give him back to you. But I also want to tell you that I'm pretty sure that your son wanted to do this job, that he felt that serving his country and serving others, not only you, Mom, but so many others in this process, was what he wanted to do, at least at this point in his life. And he understood the risks, and he understood the challenges, but he also understood the day-to-day pleasure and virtual high fives that he was able to give himself and other members for being able to do exceptional things and exceptional work. And I said, and I think he did this because of the example that you set and the love he had for you and for other family members that were either always there or people he occasionally saw. I can't imagine him not wanting to do this job for those reasons. Now, I don't know your son, and I'll forever wish he was with you today just as much as you do. But I feel a little bit comfort in understanding that he did this because he wanted to make the country a better place to live. And you should feel so proud of him for doing that. Now, I wasn't going to reconcile all of the pain and the angst and the anger in this one particular call. But the dialogue went on for about 40 minutes. And I just sort of sensed that, people around me were now trying to get on to the next event, they were very respectful. But I also wanted to carry on with this conversation. So I asked if she would stay on the line and if we could have set up a conversation later on and just continue, maybe if I could help with the healing process or at least listen to her whenever she wanted to talk. And so we did that. And I talked to her initially once a month for about a year. And then it went about once every 3 months for a couple of years. And then about once every 6 months for about 4 more years. And then she disappeared off the map. Now, I don't know what happened after that. But those dialogues were as meaningful to me as they were to her. I kept notes because I wanted to make sure I was ready for the next call. And I still have those as well. Because I'm mindful of the fact that, this young man didn't work for me directly. I didn't know him until this event had occurred. We were bound by the same oath, the same ethos, the same values of honor, courage, and commitment. And I think everyone that would say that any leader in this business that we're in would have that same relationship with him, even though they didn't know him. And that same relationship with this mom, even though they didn't know her. It was just the most awe-inspiring couple of years by the time I got to know her a little bit better. And I think we eased some of the pain. I think she began to realize that the bottom line is that he was doing what he wanted to do, and he felt it was important. And so that she should and did, I think, again, feel proud of that. The chain of command is longer than you think. All of us need to be aware of that. All of us have, every day, have the capacity and are actually having impacts on people who may not even be in our immediate tribe. They may not be in our tribe at all, such as this mom who was, I guess she was in my larger Navy family tribe, but she was way out here. I didn't know her from anybody. And all those aunts and uncles, I think of my granddaughters in school every day and the impact that their teachers have and how they come home and talk about how great their teachers are and how wonderful they are, and I think about the relationships that they have with their friends and the discussions they have in that spectrum. And so it's just a powerful thing. And I want you not to forget that you have that same ability to have a positive or negative impact on people that extend well beyond the first order of communication, first order of a relationship. That's it, folks. It's a wonderful thing that you have the capacity to do. Another 3,800 meters in the water today. I love you all. I hope you have a great Navy day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.